Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. I'm already taking a look at some of the comments. I jokingly made a comment as I was waiting for Kuba to come on the screen before we went live, and I jokingly said, I'm waiting on his Imperial Cruiser. And once I said that, you guys just went with it, and it's pretty hilarious. Some of the things I'm trying not to peek at. What the first comment I saw, someone said, does it have a coexist bumper sticker on the back? It's a fun thing about having Kuba here is that besides the fact that he's, a member of the very, very secret, I wouldn't say secret society, but it's real, the TIR Central Committee, and kind of a founding member, if you will, of this band of ne'er-do-wells that we have here on This is Revolution. And rarely do Kuba and I, outside of our private lives, actually have an opportunity to do a one-on-one show like this. I think his first article for Jacobin was a good one. He did the intelligent thing and co-wrote with Ben. Ray keeps telling me, I'll co-write an article with you. He's like, nah. Then I read Kuba and Ben. I was like, oh, maybe. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I should jump on that train. If you are new to what we do here, welcome. I hope you dig it. If you don't, oh well. But if you're a returning listener, subscriber, fuck yeah. So glad to have you back. Whoever you are, please hit like, please hit subscribe. It is a passive gesture that goes an extremely long way in making sure we can continue to do this. Now let's talk about Donald Trump here. Does Donald Trump want to dismantle the deep state, not to get rid of the deep state, but to weaponize the deep state? In the lead up to the 2024 election, a familiar pattern emerges. While many politically engaged Americans claim to care about politics, the reality is that much of the discourse is shaped by empty slogans, promises to make America great again or to save democracy. But behind these slogans lies a deeper crisis. As the U.S. empire grapples with its own contradictions and decline, for many, the upcoming election is not simply a battle between two personalities. It's an ideological struggle over what America should be. As Trump once again promises to return America to its former glory, he is positioning himself as the savior of a nation in decline. Our very own deep state Kuba, in his latest co-authored article for Jacobin titled, Trump Wants to Purge the Deep State So He Can Weaponize It, argues that while Trump governed less like a fascist dictator and more like a conventional Republican during his first term, his second term could be far more dangerous. Trump's grandstanding on the deep state reflects a desire to centralize power and install loyalists to dismantle any institutional resistance. Kuba and co-author Ben Burgess write, Trump seeks to purge the civil service and military command structure, transforming the state into an instrument of his will. If successful, it would be the ultimate triumph of the counter-revolutionary right. This is a direct threat to working class power and a serious shift in how state institutions could be used in the future. During his presidency, Trump's handling of crises, whether the failure to build the wall, his black bag operation in Portland during the George Floyd protest against police violence, or the devastating COVID-19 pandemic, showed more incompetence than authoritarian control. But his desire to reshape the state apparatus in the service of his reactionary agenda is dangerous in itself. What would a second Trump term look like, especially if it aligns with the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, a plan to fully dismantle what remains of the post-New Deal state? In this episode, we'll examine what these developments mean for the left, for democracy, for the future of American politics. We'll attempt to dig into the serious implication of Trump's plans and the broader right-wing agenda, challenging the simplistic narratives of good versus evil, often peddled in mainstream media. It's time to critically engage with what's at stake and explore how the left can confront the rising threat of authoritarianism in the United States. Coming all the way live from the deepest, darkest nether regions of the Death Star, or in this case, his Star Destroyer, leaving us to get to Corsica. Please welcome Deep State Kuba.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
It's nice to be back. I only lost a couple of fingers on Hoth during the forced corporate retreat this time. Only one of them was due to cold. And fortunately, we've got the good Medicare program. We've got the good insurance on the Death Star, so they've grown back by now. But yeah, that and the luxury insulin are nice perks, definitely.
There's no embargo, but there's an embargo on Hoth of insulin.
And also no OSHA, no guardrails around the battle stations, right? Like that, the Union really fought for that, but right, it was either one or the other. You can grow back fingers, or you can have guardrails.
Is that how deep Disney's going to go into Star Wars lore? It's going to be like the Union reps fighting for a Union on the Death Star.
I'm looking forward to Andor, the second season, right? If anything is going to have a unionization arc, it's going to be that spinoff.
Can I ask you this? Because I haven't had Disney Plus in going on 2 years now, and Netflix. I got rid of everything, except for Tubi. Because if it's not Tubi, it's not Tubi, and Amazon. But was the last show the Acolyte? Was it as bad as Gene was making it sound, or is Gene just a hater at this point?
I only saw like the first episode of it. Didn't feel compelled to watch beyond that, and it's not good. It feels like there's a certain formula for The Mandalorian and things like the Book of Boba Fett, but it's a formula that pretty much works. It's recognizable, but it's got the beats that you want it to have. The Acolyte, it just kind of made no sense, and it didn't have any recognizable characters or anything. So it's like, who are these people and why do I care about them? And they never really answered that question.
Well, that sucks. Well, I'm not missing anything. Tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, not having Disney Plus lets you take a bit of a backseat and let other people be your guinea pigs. See which of the shows are palatable and which of them are actually.
I didn't know that so many people are angry about TV shows until I just didn't have them. Go off about TV shows. I'm like, yeah, you guys really need to go find friends or something. But let's talk a little bit about this article that you co-wrote with my neighbor, Beverages. Trump's first term is a prelude. In this article, you argue that Trump governed more like a traditional Republican than a fascist strongman, which kind of is the narrative that we get in mainstream media, right? He's a fascist. We have to get the fascists out of office, make sure we don't get a fascist in office. Why do you think that was the case, and what factors might make his potential second term different?
Well, I think that his election took everyone by surprise, including the Trump campaign and including the conservative establishment, the conservative movement, rather, and the Republican establishment. No one had a plan for what to do in case Trump becomes president because nobody thought it would happen. And as a result, when he comes into office, he's got a long list of grievances and promises that he promised to settle. And no real loyalists inside certainly not the federal government, very few inside the Republican Party, right? Many people might be too young to remember when figures like Marco Rubio, Leslie Graham, um, J.D. Vance, in fact, were never Trumper idealists, right? That uh, he was the American Hitler that they needed to close ranks to prevent from ascending to power. And he also didn't have much of a footprint in the conservative movement because
He spent the first half of his adult life as a Democrat.
precisely, he's a rich New York property developer with no relationship with Jesus and no connection to, right, like, hardline
Y
concerns.
you know, it's I know we're around. I'm a little older than you, but and you grew up in Canada, which is not the States, but still, I'm sure you got some of that gossip television, that was so prevalent in the '80s, which is where, I'm introduced to Donald Trump, right? Through shows like Current Affair and stuff like that. He was the most
Mhm.
popular
Oh,
socialite.
Marla Maples, right?
The Marla Maples scandal was like all I knew so much about a guy like Donald Trump, even decades before we get to the Apprentice era. um, Donald Trump, and he's to me he's kind of this fascinating figure that was able to maintain this level of fame for really not doing anything other than fucking up. But his fucking up, while epic, never becomes part of his narrative. He managed to kind of control it.
Yeah, I think that there's a reason for that. Part of it, and this relates to something that you asked in your questions, um, has to do with how keen his sense is for media narratives, for what journalists pick up, what kind of things get repeated, what tropes resonate with audiences, how to tap into audiences. He has a knack for that. That's something that he's done, and that's something that he's gotten quite good at. One thing that he has never done is governed in any capacity before 2016.
Mhm.
And he had never thought about it, and he was not good at it. He had no plan for it, he had no interest in it, compared to the areas where he really shines, which are uh, dick measuring alpha male negotiations about sketchy properties and financial crime and catty media alpha girl gossip. Those areas he knows how to work. He knows what to do. But when it comes to dealing with an extensive bureaucracy or learning about a geopolitically significant region or having trade agreements explained to him, he doesn't have the patience, he doesn't have the interest, he doesn't believe that it's important. And his model coming into the White House was the same as coming into the penthouse at Trump Towers. Um, who's the butler, right? Who do I tell what I want? And then I just sit around watching Fox News, taking phone calls until they do it. And he was not prepared for a situation in which he has this extensive, expansive um, apparatus at his control, people who, in theory, work for him, quote unquote, but who just won't do as they're told. And then when you complain about them, you can't get them fired. Instead, you get other people defending them and explaining how you can't really get them to do what you want, even though you're, in theory, the CEO in chief, or however he conceives of his position. He obviously had no grounding in any kind of constitutional legal reference to his role and his position. He just thought that he could come in and whether it was his chief of staff or Ivanka or Jared Kushner or whoever, there'd be somebody that he could yell at in order to get what he wanted, and then he would get what he wanted. Um, Turns out he can't even stop investigations by the FBI or the Justice Department into his own dealings. And he took that rather badly, like cut to Michael Jordan, and I took that personally. But he also didn't have a plan for how to address it, or even an awareness that something like this could happen. And what it allowed during the his first term was, whenever establishment Republicans thought they could get something that they wanted anyway, things like corporate tax cuts or things like conservative justice appointments, everything was very easy because the system of government, the Republican Party, the agencies of state were all in agreement that this was something that Trump had the power to do. So he was allowed to carry it out. When he had plans that ran against establishment interests, sometimes insanely irresponsible ideas, sometimes ideas that might, in other circumstances, be sensible ones, but which ran against establishment opposition, then either agencies inside the federal government could slow walk implementation, or they could ask for judicial review by legal departments who would take forever to come up with an opinion, and then they would come up with an opinion which was ambiguous and suggest that further review was necessary. Sometimes his own appointees simply refused to carry out his orders. There's a famous conference call with then Department of Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, where Trump was reacting very badly to a perceived slight by Bashar al-Assad and called for large-scale bombing, assassination attempts, all kinds of trouble. When Trump left the call, Mattis told everyone on it, yeah, we're just not going to do that. And this is in Fear, one of the Woodward Trump biographies, one of the accounts of the Trump White House. Similar things happened with economic policy. Mnuchin would occasionally run his own policies and get Trump to sign off on something in a giant stack of files. And by and large, they could get away with it. After all, the Justice Department, which in theory might be used to discipline members of the executive that go off book, well, that was busy investigating the chief executive. It was stacked with people that Trump would describe as deep state operatives, career civil servants, highly trained bureaucrats and counselors and investigators that had their own oath, their own esprit, their own sense of what their duties and their obligations were. And they weren't interested in carrying out policies that ran counter to that self-image. And they also had to think past what happens when Trump leaves office, right? When George W. Bush, a much more establishment figure, and whose policies and whose administration were much better integrated into the federal apparatus and into the Washington, D.C. circuit, when he left office, there was still some anxiety as to what would happen to, for instance, CIA or military individuals, officials that had documented links to things like torture policies or extraordinary rendition. And we saw what happened, which was nothing. The deep state protected itself. And to the extent that anybody paid a price, it was the inmates at Guantanamo Bay.
Mm-hmm.
But with Trump, you are going to have to be even more cautious than with George W. Bush, because here's an ex-president who won't be able to protect those that carried out his sketchiest policies because he'll be too busy with his own lawsuits. That was a very sensible anxiety to be had if you're called upon to carry out what could be very easily construed as extrajudicial or unconstitutional uses of force against people at the border, George Floyd protesters, students, leftists, you name it. So that was a real break, preventing the enactment of some of the more repressive policies that Trump favored. Now he's getting a second bite at the apple, and he's not coming in raw. He's coming in with a very clear sense of who the opposition is, who's going to try to block him, how they blocked him in the past. It's gotten personal because the same deep state operatives that refused to carry out his policies then turned around and started investigating him aggressively as soon as he leaves office. So he's got lists of names, right? There are people that need to go. Mm-hmm. With the assassination attempts against him, it goes further than legal risk. There's a potential for life and death if he can't count on the agents and leaders inside branches like the Secret Service.
Is he getting the B team of Secret Service since he's an ex-president that is unliked by the deep state?
Well, it's tricky with someone like Trump because the Secret Service is actually one of the most reactionary branches of federal law enforcement. It's just a lot of MAGA. This is something that I was looking at in 2016 and 2020 when it looked like Bernie Sanders had a chance, right? I would not trust these guys to protect a leftist, democratic, socialist president. And so I think that in the rank and file, there's no shortage of guys in the aviator sunglasses who are like, I would take a bullet for you, Mr. President. It has been an honor to die for you, Mr. President. But when it comes to the management and leadership layers of the Secret Service, well, these are Bidenists. And I wouldn't be surprised if, especially after January 6th, especially given that the deep state anxieties about Trump are not unfounded. He was not given the most enthusiastic Trump people, but was given officers that were considered reliable from the Biden perspective.
Interesting. How does the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 factor into Trump's vision for a second term? Hasn't he publicly denounced it? What would a successful dismantling of the state look like under Trump, and how would this harm the working class? You write, quote, Trump's, or one of you write, quote, Trump's agenda will likely overlap with efforts to radically reduce the scope of government services targeting social safety nets like Medicare and Social Security.
So one thing that's useful to start with is just to distinguish the deep state versus the state versus another term that you see quite often from people like J.D. Vance and Steve Bannon, the administrative state.
Okay.
So the deep state as a concept actually comes from Turkey. We miss Eugene. And it describes the security services and the career officials that staff the places where intelligence is gathered, decisions on the use of force are made, and programs of law enforcement, military violence, judicial repression are executed. And this is one of the few areas where you actually don't have a lot of privatization and and contracting, you do have some, but it's generally the same people year in and year out. They aren't really suited for a lot of private sector jobs, and they know where all the bodies are buried. And that deep knowledge of the sinews of the secret flow of power within the state are extremely valuable. So those guys stick around, and those guys can do a lot without any authorization. Often their activities are officially shielded by classified status or other types of government secrecy regulations. They can usually tap into financial resources with little or no questions asked. They're very difficult to audit, and a lot of people are frightened of them or owe them favors. So that's the deep state. More broad than that is the category of the administrative state. The deep state is what Trump originally accused of undermining his power. And when you see things like the letter of dozens of former intelligence agency, analysts and leaders signed declaring Trump as unfit to govern, well, these people kind of are out for him. He's not wrong. And it's funny seeing them treated as bureaucrats like the administrator of NASA on TV, because these are mostly men, but they're figures that ordered assassinations, that have secret files on everyone, that know all of the government secret programs and things that they shouldn't be doing back to front. So there's a lot of power concentrated in these hands, a lot of unaccountable power. And they have relationships with the agencies that are supposed to oversee them, which can sometimes be a little incestuous and sometimes be a little collusive, right? When was the last time that you had a serious investigation of the intelligence agencies? After the Church Commission. And it's basically to the extent that you have any type of oversight, it generally is a whitewash and the substantiation of the impunity of these groups. The administrative state, which becomes the actual target of figures like Bannon and the Heritage Foundation, is not just the security guys, but like the FDA, the USDA, the Department of Education. Any of these public agencies that are supposed to govern and structure segments of the economy or parts of American public life. And the reason is simple. While the relationship that conservative groups have with the deep state is actually very ambiguous, a lot of them are friends, a lot of them are MAGA people at this point. There's if you think about someone like Dick Cheney, a consummate creature of the deep state, right? He's a Republican leader who has very, very deep connections and sympathies with the apparatus. That's true of the deep state, but the administrative state, well, every Republican hates the Department of Energy. Every Republican hates the Department of Education. Every Republican hates the regulatory powers of the Department of Transportation or an organization like the EPA. And by trying to link these two, because these agencies also have career bureaucrats, they also have civil servants with pensions and decent benefits that are hard to fire and that sometimes don't do what they're told, or sometimes inform their leaders that what they're asking for is unconstitutional or goes against existing policy or rules. These agencies, even though they're pretty harmless, and even in terms of the Trump administration, generally speaking, those public officials are the weakest and have the least ability to do pushback. But that's where everyone on the right agrees that you can cut them down to nothing and it would benefit the Republican coalition. So the what Heritage has done in Project 2025 is taken this the lessons learned from the first Trump administration and a very keen awareness of the limitations of Donald Trump as a political leader. They know that he's not going to do the reading himself. They know that he's not going to come up with a plan himself. They know that he's not going to do organization building himself. And they took that on to produce a roadmap that would allow Trump to do all of the crazy stuff that he's promising to do this time, unlike the previous time. People have focused most narrowly on the programmatic component, where Heritage lays out its policy proposals. But that's actually just one element of the overall project, and probably the least important. Some of those policies are crazy, typical Republican conservative overreach. They're flirting with the idea of banning not just same-sex marriage, but divorce. They argue for and against, but largely for a nationwide abortion ban, things like that. But there's also, let's abolish public sector unions. Let's do more private education through voucherization. We got to drill for more fossil fuels, et cetera, standard Republican stuff. That gets a lot of attention, but it's the least significant element, in my opinion. There's an additional component, which is a comprehensive description of the laws and rules governing the operation of state agencies. Who is responsible for actually doing things at, say, the Department of Transportation? Who is responsible for hiring and firing people, determining promotions at the Department of State? How does the military hierarchy work, and how do new generals get appointed? The Project 2025 breaks down these questions and gives you very specific answers in terms of the regulations you can invoke to assert presidential authority over elements of the federal civil service, the powers that you could use to dismiss officials, even those that have union or statutory protection, and the key positions that need to be staffed with loyalists if you're going to be able to get a controversial program pushed down to the enforcement implementation level. And then it has a Rolodex of willing loyalists who are pre-screened for ideological conviction, who have already been trained up on some of what they'll need to know to take over these positions and do what Trump has promised. An entire, from the perspective of, to draw a leftist analogy, imagine if Lenin shows up at Finland Station and right away he's handed a list with 200,000 qualified cadres for the Communist Party and a detailed plan on all of the choke points and weaknesses of the Imperial Army, right? These are the officers you have to wipe out, and these are the ones you want to replace them. It would massively enable the seizure of power and the implementation of a radical agenda in the Russian Empire. And similarly, this program would, the scariest part about it is on the administrative side, on the organizational side. Forget the policy, but all of the practical workplace stuff, it'll work. It's a perfectly, they're right. They've done the homework, and as a result, they know how to purge the officials in whether it's DHS or state or the Department of Justice that they don't want to keep, they don't trust. And they have a deep bench. They're not going to have to go to Scaramucci or something, or rely on people that, Reince Priebus has shortlisted, but they have MAGA loyalists, a very, very deep bench that are happy to show up, and that rather than looking for excuses not to do the Trump agenda, will do everything in their power to make President Trump happy and to do things like deport 10 million immigrants, do things like find novel ways to crack down on protesters. And
It's fun.
that's the scary part.
It's funny that you say that, because I do want to kind of hit on that for a second. This immigration, we spoke about this before on the show, about how large of a jobs program that could be if presented the right way, right? This idea that you're going to wipe out the United States of all its immigrant population. I recently was at my favorite bar and was with sitting next to one of these MAGA loyalists, if you will. Of course, not someone in power, just a how would we say it in our world? Petite bourgeois, small business
Fanboy.
owner. Yeah. He actually, it's moments like that where I'm so glad that I'm not like so online, that I know how to talk to real people and like listen. Because when you're too online, if someone says the wrong thing, you're just going to go off and think the world's over. But he goes, when Donald Trump ran for office, I thought to myself, because he hated Reagan.
Mhm.
He hated Bush. He hated Clinton. He was like, all these people are horrible. He goes, but Donald Trump's a businessman. He's a successful businessman, and I think a businessman needs to run this country. And I just was like, tell me more. I want to know more. Yeah, I literally did that. I literally did that at the bar. Like, this is good.
Please go on.
Yeah, like I want all of this. And he feels that Joe Biden opened up the borders and allowed large swaths of immigrants to come in. He is married to a woman who is not a citizen. She doesn't live in the States. He's actually trying to get her over. And it's a hard process. As you know, it's a hard process to get citizenship. And he was telling me about how he took in an illegal alien. And I was like, I think there's steps you jumped over when you're trying to tell me the story, but just tell the story. I wasn't there. I'm not going to tell you you're lying. But that experience was enough for this gentleman to believe that any Democrat wants to open up borders kind of for no reason. Like just to do, like all the Democrats
because they hate America.
Yeah, they're just the Joker, right? Just some people just want to watch the world burn. Like, okay, that's interesting perspective to have on the world. Why you think that? And that was like one of his main concerns is the border, as we're talking in Mexico, mind you. It's this idea that the borders are open and Trump really is going to close them. When we think about Donald Trump and the way he governs in this spectacle over substance, he loves the media driven narrative. I'm going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. Everything that happened with the pandemic, with the daily press conferences, which we didn't really find out too much in these daily press conferences.
Well, the issue with Trump is that while he loves the spectacle, he loves being the center of attention, he loves being an MC, he's actually very thin-skinned about criticism. And without the gravitas of someone like FDR, who could command respect even from people who might despise his politics, Trump just sets himself up for ridicule whenever he tries to lead by spectacle. But that creates this polarization cycle where he migrated, if you recall, from at the very beginning of his campaign, right? He was getting unearned media from all of the networks. And a lot of it was critical, a lot of it was unfriendly, but everyone was paying attention. As his term went on, he migrated to further and further right outlets because they were the only ones who could provide him with the kind of fawning adulation that is the real get for him. And then he gets captured by the views of his own audience, right? His position on coronavirus has migrated from being irresponsible, but at least somewhat scientifically grounded, to bragging about the vaccines that he authorized,
Yeah.
to feeding in to paranoid conspiracy theories and shutting up entirely about those vaccines, right? Now it's no longer a point of pride, Project Warp Speed and Jared Kushner and all that, but rather the vaccine mandate is Biden, vaccines are Biden, the Biden vaccine. And I think that this cements the friend-enemy distinction where you assume that anybody who's not part of your movement, who's supporting the other guy, is the same as the most extreme elements of that political coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And not even the most extreme elements that are speaking officially, but anybody that you can lump in with Biden and his diversity crowd and Kamala Harris and, the coastal elites. One person says something, one Yale professor says something one time, and all of a sudden it's everybody wants post-birth abortions to be legal.
Yeah. It's
And
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and the reality is that people who actually want a looser southern border in the United States were extremely critical of Kamala Harris when she was given the role of being the immigration enforcer for the Biden campaign. I mean, you had "Do not come,
Yeah,
do not come"
I had to
on the
remind
soundboard.
Kuba. The guy goes, Kamala Harris told the immigrants to come over. I was like, actually, it's literally on my show. I drop a soundbite, every so often of her saying "Do not come" while in South America. And he, if you listen to conservative radio, and I think you and I might dabble in conservative media enough to understand what actually is coming out of them and not hear it through the lens of a quote unquote media critic, but just listen to it raw, just raw dog in the conservative talk. Just raw dog in the conservative talk. But there is a lot of things that it always lacks context. And a lot of immigrants did leave certain places when Biden got in office, thinking that it would be a little easier to get into the country. So there was a problem at the southern border. That isn't because the Biden administration was like sending out evites. But that seems to be the narrative that this current administration is actually very laxed. And a lot of the conversation I had with this gentleman, which was not, it really wasn't an argumentative conversation at all, was just kind of explaining Democratic immigration policies and how rough they've constantly been. Even going back to the creation of the wall, I was like, that wall is built during the Clinton administration strategically to make sure people die in the desert. I was like, word? I was like, word?
Yeah, I mean, all the easy, evil, repressive stuff has already been done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Because
yeah.
that was the only point of debate, right? And it's like we can all agree we want the evil, repressive stuff, but how much is it going to cost, and how hard is it going to be?
How hard is it going to be to get done? Like,
That sounds like a little too difficult. That sounds like some overtime for me. So,
like
just
trying to explain, like, hey, man, yeah, a lot of people left various countries in Latin America, but it wasn't just because on the other side of this magical line was supposed to be peace, happiness, and opportunity. A lot of people left horrible conditions. It had a lot to do with America. When you look at the majority of a lot of the immigrants that we see at the southern borders, first of all, and the gentleman had to admit this. He goes, "They're not Mexican." I was like, "No, they are not. They are not." There's tons of Venezuelans,
yeah.
tons.
And the when I started paying attention to politics, there was um, a very what struck me as the logical and sensible policy, which is if you are anxious about large inflows of migrants from countries in your region, work with those countries in order to handle the underlying causes that are driving people, whether it's insecurity, whether it's economic underperformance, whether it's some other like environmental dislocation or security issues. Um, and I was waiting for that to come along with the indispensable nation status that people like Suzanne Powers or Madeleine Albright anointed the United States with, because it felt like here's an opportunity that you can do your neoliberal diplomacy, and here's an obvious need, and here's a way that it would benefit your home country. It just makes sense from a state efficiency perspective. But it turns out that that wasn't the point, right? The point wasn't to prevent migration to the United States, and the point wasn't to help develop countries in the region. It was a bunch of sorted, more local level deals or larger structural adjustment with whatever human consequences came with it. And now people are acting as though um, this was a problem caused by the refugees and migrants. Well, man, like if you don't want to do the time, don't do the crime, or something like that.
Oops. Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of that kind of talk. I wish it would have been there. Look, by the end of the conversation, I think I ended up talking to the guy for like 4 hours. Yeah, we had a long talk, a lot of jokes.
Well, the level of most people haven't thought through, haven't had the luxury of time and access to information, access to experts to be able to have very detailed perspectives on these issues. They just take a combination of like what feels right based on what they've been hearing, what they've been seeing,
Mhm.
and um, essentially socioeconomic gossip from whatever sources they think are worth listening to, and then they just run with that. And um, opportunities to actually learn from somebody who has thought about it, even if they belong to the other side, are uncommon, especially if it's not delivered from the pedantic, patronizing, professorial, Polish guy tone. You just like hang with your buddy and getting who's dropping the science, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. A quick history course, right? Civics course. Right? It
precisely.
I don't think I don't think most people think they're bad people, and I don't think most people want to be bad people. And if you start from there and just listen first and foremost, you can kind of see where people are coming from. And if you don't play team sports with them politically, right? Like when someone says, I will leave the country if Kamala Harris becomes president. You don't yell, "What are you, some kind of MAGA son of a bit?" Like you just go, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." Why would you do that?
Well, I think that there's a very different kind of social psychology that goes on before and after the people are bad, enemies exist, evil is real,
Mhm.
instinct, feeling, sentiment is triggered. When even dyed in the wool ethno national chauvinists, right? Whatever your flavor, once you stop talking about all of the people they hate, they're like, but we have to be nice to each other. And I think that a great deal of the political climate is determined by how quickly and readily people have that instinct, that mentality triggered. If it takes forever, like I imagine in Iceland or Finland or one of the really boring countries, maybe Costa Rica, I don't know. The It takes a long time to make two locals um, see each other as enemies or like oh, we have to do stuff to stop the bad people. It takes a while to reach bad people, but in the US it feels like whether you start with a Republican or a Democrat, you get there pretty quickly, right?
Oh,
And
dude,
it's just a different set of bad people.
dude, you would have loved this. The conversation started with
Hmm.
because he's got a place in Costa Rica, and the conversation started. He goes, "Well, Costa Rica is a socialist country," and I go, "No, it's not." Just like that, I was like, "No, it's not." He goes, "Yes, it is," and I was like, "No, it's not."
No, sir.
And he goes, "Latin America." I was like, "Yeah, what about it?" It was a Latin American country. I was like, "It's not socialist."
Yeah.
I was like, "I believe there's like private business there, and I just don't think it's socialist." He goes, "Well, they got a healthcare run by the state." I was like, "So does France." He
Mm.
goes, "Huh?"
So does everybody.
I see. He went like this. He went, "Huh?" You don't like when you see this kind of stuff. It's funny. It's funny because to me, there's like two worlds, right? There's the real world where people really don't like any kind of violent confrontation, and there's the world of online where you can just like suck it.
Yes.
And I always wonder like how many people have really gotten into a fight, how many people have really looked another person in the eye and told them to fuck right off. Um, that isn't their decrepit parent that they could beat up now. Like how many people have actually had these kinds of confrontations with real individuals? Because most people,
British people.
British people do fight. They
Yeah.
they
Like
enjoy fighting.
the when there isn't that expectation of manners, then just look at Question Time from UK Parliament. Uh, you have very, very direct confrontation. It sounds almost like a Twitter thread, but I mean, slightly less racism now that there's fewer Brexit guys. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The Yeah, I think that Americans, especially, the gap between online discourse and how people there's huge swaths of the United States where there's a pleasantness requirement for sociability. And even in the rest of the country, like the most asshole regions of New Jersey and Massachusetts, um, most people are too reluctant to get into a fight to actually say the shit they're thinking.
Right?
Yeah.
Like no, who wants if you you sit down and talk to a person, most people they want to be rational. They don't want to be irrational. I never sat there and told him Trump is evil, because he was sort of turned off at that point. It's like, okay, well, I'll let you tell me these things, and then we'll just talk about why it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because this is the way the world really works. That's a magical way you're hearing it on drive time radio, or just your lion eyes, because sometimes it does become your lion eyes. Like, right? There's always this idea of return, kind of like the MAGA idea. We have to return America back to this greatness. We all get to a certain age where we remember an imagined greater time. I constantly on this show talk about
the 16th century.
Right?
The reign of Casimir the Great.
That was the great time right there.
The battle of the victory at Grunwald, the siege of Vienna.
That's what you should. I hope you do that when you're somewhere in public and someone's talking about Canada was better, when you're like, it was better when it was ruled by the Brits. You should you start saying that just at random coffee shops and see what happens.
I mean, the 1840s, like after they had merged administratively the Upper and Lower Canada, but before they had renamed them Ontario and Quebec, that was when it was at. Never forget what they took from you.
Hashtag never forget. like it's fun to like, hey, like, what? I know you want to look back and think that these things are new problems, but and there was a lot of things that those people will agree with you with. If you say, well, the cost of living is too high, he was like, I agree. Rent's too high. Okay, well, let's go from there. Let's start talking about, why do you think that is? Is it just greed? And how is Trump going to make that better? You understand that man works in real estate. Like, that is antithetical to anything he has ever done. Did you just bring back dueling?
That really, really kept the hecklers in line.
Kush looks at the world.
It's like, you don't know how good I am at shooting.
Kush looks at
not only that, but like, if I'm picking weapons, how good are you with the saber?
The world was better when there was only one Dakota. When was the world? That should be your next article for Jacobin. When was the world better?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we returning to? That's what I want to know.
Oh, there was that book that came out, The Anarchist History of the World.
Mm-hmm.
The David Graeber book.
The last one before that he died. Before he died.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't think of the name of it, but I know the book you're talking about. Don't mention that to Varn, by the way.
Yes, but that actually felt like an attempt to answer that question. Like, how far back do we go before we have any kind of thing that we can call humanity that we don't hate? And the answer is like pretty far back. Right.
While Kuba was studying geopolitics, I studied the blade.
Let's bring back dueling, and then I'll listen to you.
The dawn of everything. Thank you very much, John.
The dawn of everything. But it's like, there is a sense that things have gotten worse, and part of that is objectively true.
Oh, God,
if you one of the weirdest things about travel to certain places is that you realize that it's only locally true. In the United States, in general, things are harder for people of the younger generation than they are for people my age, for whom it was harder than the people that came before me. In Poland, the exact opposite. people are walking around, and this is deeply unnatural for Slavic people, being like, things not the worst.
Kuba,
Still
would you-
not Casimir the Great time, but Casimir the okay, Casimir the pretty good.
you were just in Poland, right? Weren't you there earlier this year?
Yeah, I was there earlier this year. Summer and I were in Switzerland for a little bit, visiting a friend of mine, and we went back to Poland to see some family. Yeah, and I remember the first visits that I took after, things had settled down enough so that we could go back from Canada. And my God, it was grim. Everything was terrible. Everything was literally gray because of all the coal dust settling from, communist industry. And everyone was pissed off all the time. And you could only buy shitty Eastern Bloc versions of anything. My wife and the yeah, and now it's like you're going to Germany but better.
Really?
Yeah, the Germans are complaining that their shit is falling apart. But in
Well,
Poland,
Alex Herbert, Alex and I are writing a book together. I just have to get off my ass. But he went to Poland to premiere his documentary that he did on Russian citizens leaving the country and going to Georgia, in Tbilisi, and the punk scene that was kind of forming there from all these young Russians that were leaving to avoid fighting. And I think this is like second or third time in Poland. He rather enjoys it.
It's a place where it feels like things are working and everyone's in a pretty good mood as a result. The politics are pretty vicious, right? Parties hate each other. And we've got, wow, there are some bad people in the Polish parliament. But it was strange to be in a country which felt like it was working. The only other case where that reliably happens is Vietnam. I go
Really?
there and everything's better, right? I go there and our trains are faster now. The airport is great now. Like the internet works now. It feels like there's just constant improvement, and part of it is just a developmental case, right? If you're starting from a low output position, low income position, there's a few things that you can reliably do to improve things that absolutely work. One is educate your population. Another one is get your hands on, use that educated population to domesticate as much foreign technology as possible. And both countries did that, and both countries are reaping the benefits for having like a optimistic, young, 20 years ago, educated workforce at the time. It's remarkable to what extent that countries like the United States just stop doing what is understood to be the foundation for actual real economic growth. But yeah, and it's funny because in those countries, when people argue politics, they're fighting for the future. In the United States, places like the UK, increasingly in much of the West, people are fighting over the past, right? When was it good? What can we feel okay about? There's just no hope that anybody who's around right now can credibly offer anything in the future which isn't just more suckage on a day-to-day level and more violence and decay on a planetary level.
Well, let's end with this. I know we're coming up on the hour.
Cheerful.
Let's end with a little bit of hope. Hopefully, this is a hopeful question. How do we combat the false narrative that the only choices are a return to neoliberal centrism or authoritarian reaction? And how does the left position itself in this battle? Or is the contemporary left also a victim of neoliberal realism and can only see resistance as counterculture media pundit and, at best, professional protester? If that is the case, how do we begin to transform out of this self-indulgent epoch?
Well, I think that the way in which that the most severe, most serious, most based form of the contemporary leftist activist has become the axis of resistance type tanky, where you've given up so much on any type of domestic renewal or change that you're simping for whoever might conceivably bomb Israel at some point. And that's another way of surrendering the future, of just giving up on any kind of positive plan, hoping that somebody else will take care of it and that Daddy Xi or Daddy Ayatollah or Daddy Putin will come to the rescue. The more sympathetic variant of this is a hopefulness that the BRICS as an international multilateral organization, or certain Latin American countries where there's some optimism around figures like Lula da Silva, maybe they'll do something that we can import. Maybe they'll come up with a solution. And like I said, that's the more sympathetic version. And I think that we can hope, but I don't think that it's at all realistic. The BRICS are just the same kind of multilateral, ultimately capitalist, market driven, and geopolitically realist, competitive structure as we've had in other multilateral organizations. China will try to manipulate it, and other groups will try to contest it. And there's a real risk that it'll be just as badly captured. That's the most likely outcome as things like the IMF. And I don't think that there exists any place outside of China and that really can structurally build an alternative future to the one that the legacy powers of the West are trying to prop up. If there is hope for domestic change, then I think that the left needs to get more serious about flexible horizontal organization, and much more tolerant about who they're willing to include in their networks, together with starting to develop applications for new technology and recruit more heavily among groups that understand new technology, things like 3D printers, like the maker movement. Then you might be at the beginning of something, but it's a very long way to go before we have the experience, the awareness, and the mass to dream about our own future rather than live in other people's fears.
So just more podcasters, what you're saying.
Exactly. Except we need ones where which tell you how to 3D print your favorite Cowboy Bebop characters.
I'd watch that show. I'm not a big Cowboy Bebop fan. I just watch that show to see how you could just do it at home.
Yeah, but they're all wearing like Hezbollah outfits.
That person would have such a large channel in this world.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Welcoming their millionth subscriber.
Oh my God. I watched this morning. There's this chiropractor that I follow for no real good reason. She seems like a nice person. She's about our age. No crazy lighting, no surgery. It's kind of like a mom that always wears really, really tight leggings. So you see all of the cheeks. And she's at like 3 million subscribers. And I was like, huh. If I continue to do squats and wear those same pants, could I make enough money to actually be successful?
I think that you should maybe develop an alternate personality that you use for promotions and like lifestyle content. I'd go with like some kind of pirate skipper type thing, and start out with like, here's everyone's top 10 summer rum cocktails. Yeah. And then as you develop your glutes, you can like strategically lose a layer of clothes.
Mason Giles, somebody said. I'm not gonna lie, the thumbnails for this woman, there was one thumbnail, I think I might have shared it on a group chat once. It's just this woman's ass in the camera as she's cracking a back. And what's funny is it's not even the biggest ass. Like there's nothing about her where you'd be like, oh my God. You're like, yeah. So those are definitely leggings. Oh, yeah, she seems to have large breasts of a mom. But 3 million. And she does have attractive young women that come in there also wearing the tight leggings. But she has men as well. She's very equal opportunity. I kind of want to play a little bit of it on it so you can see it.
Look, one of the biggest TV hosts for a while was Ellen. And Ellen herself it's been a long time since she was eye candy. But
whoa, there was a time?
Look, I'm trying to be a gentleman here. But yeah, like if you're personable, if you can get like force children to dance, right? Get P. Diddy on there talking about his Diddy parties, then that's what it takes, right?
I would love
millions of people watch the Today Show.
That's true. I'm gonna
just get Pascal to do weather
from the chair. From the chair. I want you to see this. Okay, so I found this lady's channel, Kuba. I want you to see this, and I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me what you think. Okay, hold on, Kuba. Are you still there?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, damn it! Why would you say that? Don't hurt my
Go on,
feelings.
go on.
I want you to see this, and I want you to tell me. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So is she the one in the pink?
Yes, just like that's a regular ass lady, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's nothing like, oh, fucking 1984 Heather Locklear is out here cracking backs. No, just a fucking white
Or
lady.
1994 Ellen DeGeneres. Right?
Man, you were such an odd one in high school. The Ellen pictures all over your locker next to the fucking Roseanne fold out. Okay, guys, so watch this. This 3 million over 3 million subscribers.
Oh man. There it is. Let's try it again. Oh.
Right?
Go ahead and point to where it hurts then in your lower.
Usually like here, like on both sides.
Do you mind if I just
Yeah, go ahead.
So now go ahead.
See, there's nothing crazy about this. This is the most watching someone at the chiropractor ass shit ever. And it's not even like the sounds. It doesn't do all the ASMR stuff.
Yeah, but it feels a little like reality TV.
Oh, is that what it is?
Isn't it?
I'm trying. Listening to you be retarded with these fucking comments is killing me right now.
Go ahead and lean to the left again, like yeah, I do feel it pull. Yeah. So what happens? You do have like almost like a little bit of a scoliosis here.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
I'm surprised they never told you.
Well, like in cheer, usually when you do
God.
Like she seems like a nice lady, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think for some people it might be aspirational. Right.
Oh, okay. Okay. Eric W. She might need this.
Yeah, the champagne room has started early this time.
I'm not even going to read here. I'm going to try to fast forward because there's a shot. I watched a little bit of this morning, and there's a shot where she just puts her ass right in front of the camera. It's like that was unnecessary. So you can see the pants.
Really tight. Like just kind of take your arm and lean over.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pulling.
Yeah.
Right here.
Go ahead and like feel that, like stretch that.
Yeah.
Now those pants are pretty far up her ass.
Yes. I'm curious if you get AI camera stabilization that's designed to make sure that the ass stays in the frame.
I want to say it's like one of her kids is the photographer.
But the direction was very clear and very good.
You understand? Like, go to the other side. You're just not gonna feel it.
This one's way more easy.
Right. So go ahead when you're in yoga. Really lean into that side.
Yeah.
Stretch it out. Yeah. When you're sleeping, when you're sitting, you sleep. You're probably leaning into that right side, and you're doing this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
3 million subscribers. She doesn't do OnlyFans shit. She never does. She never even does like. No one goes on here, and there's never even sexual innuendo.
But I guess it might be for people who like the idea of hanging. Most of them. The answer is most of them. Hanging around Sandra Bernhardt, hot. The like this is if you want to just be in a suburban living room in Phoenix, Arizona, or something, right?
Is that what this is then? This is like suburban.
Yeah, like you're finding excuses for why, oh, I'm just making a protein shake. You girls keep stretching.
We need to put Norm on the soundboard. Gooning. Dude, she'll have thumbnails that'll just be like that shot of those pants fucking 6 inches deep up her ass. And then she'll just be, kindly talking about chiropractic. And then people get excited when the guests are attractive as well.
And this side
Because
is
you have
the
to admit,
one.
this looks cool, Kuba.
Chin back. I'm gonna see if there's anything left in here. Cause see that one right there. Okay. Nope, that's it. We're good. We got them all. Now let's see here. We reach down into here. T1 all the way up. Nice, nice, nice.
See, when I go to the chiropractor, I haven't been to a chiropractor in a few years. I was in and out of there in like 5 minutes. It's like a 30-minute thing. There's massage.
Yeah, if she was your chiropractor, you'd be paying for the extra hour.
All the chirosexuals. That's a thing. A chirosexual is a thing? No way.
Is that like a Cuomo-sexual?
I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's worse. And this fucking question, this Q&A of you and lesbians is even funnier. And you yelling out Sandra Bernhardt's name might be the funniest shit that's happened on this show in a long time. Well, thank you. Jason's gonna get a microfinance loan for this thing. Oh God.
Cause I nut quick.
Okay. I hope this video doesn't get pulled down. If so, I will take that part out. But
well, maybe you'll make a new friend.
Dude, how awesome would that be if that lady was like, "Oh, I saw you were playing my show. That's so cool."
Yeah,
come down to Florida for a free back cracking.
No. I would prefer to have her introduce you on the show to those 3 million subscribers.
You mean go down there? Oh, I'd have to work out first, dude. Everybody that goes on this show is so ripped.
Yeah, so they're not like average people, please.
Fuck no. Fuck no. 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 Like the movie Get Out. No. It's always some like buff ass dude that's ripped as shit. And he'll be like, what do you do for a living? Like, it's a bodybuilder. Like, oh.
I run fishing charters from Treasure Island.
Like you just decided to go all the way to Orlando, Florida to get your back cracked. Interesting.
No, I think that you should also go down there to meet representatives of Bacardi, or at least Appleton Rum, for our pirate-themed Jason lifestyle spinoff. It could be a travel show, right? Call it Miles and Miles with Jason Miles.
I would love. Did I tell you the good news?
Make it like Anthony Bourdain, but for booze.
Oh, if I could do like Anthony Bourdain, but with chiropractors with the fat ass. How do you do that?
Well, your gimmick could be that you're going to try every wellness and therapy thing. That way you can get treatments for free, and then you can like travel to wherever there's quack with a new type of snake oil to peddle. You can try all the finest snake oils.
Oh, that would be awesome,
Bamba.
though. Right? Like the people that, and I could like risk my life trying to prove that getting your neck yanked is not smart.
Well, I think a lot of it will be like, yeah, I tanned my balls with Tucker Carlson. Didn't do anything. My balls might actually be lighter than they were before.
I think my testicles have skin cancer. Is Tucker Carlson a ball tanner? Is he an asshole sun guy?
I remember seeing one of his bits, seeing one of his like special featurettes, and it had a guest that was manfluencer, ball tanner, asshole UV guy.
Have you ever tried that just to be funny, like in your own house?
Have I ever shown my ass to the sun? The question.
Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't? We're all animals after all.
I think more people have probably tried to tan their taint or whatever it is, taint sunning. It's something about sunning your taint, and then the sun gets into your butthole and then wakes up your whole body.
I mean, that sounds like hippie crap, right? Like I've heard that from people smelling of patchouli. The low melanin dreadlocked crew. I certainly wouldn't go any further than that. I haven't seen the peer-reviewed journal articles.
Oh, I've seen those, and they go like this: don't do it. That part of your body is extremely sensitive, and you're gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah, somebody wants ass polyps.
The Tilluminati. The Tilluminati.
Well done. No notes.
Mm-hmm. The Tilluminati.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, I feel like the Tilluminati is aspiring middle class Americans that tan their gooches.
I don't know. Like, how much of it is aspirational and how much of it is actually pretty settled upper middle class people, looking for meaning, wellness, right? Yoga people skew a little upper middle class.
Yeah, but that what you're talking about, what we're joking about, there are cats that are legitimately going to these places as if they're going to discover some truth.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. I don't dig it, but I get that. And they're always searching for it in Burning Man.
Yeah.
You know,
Latin America, ayahuasca cults, you name it.
Fucking sound baths, like all this goofy stuff. Like I get it. I totally get trying to find this idea of truth and meaning. We're all searching for it in some capacity. But
yeah, it's funny because as long as you're searching for it, even in the goofiest places that I might not look for it myself, I've got nothing against you, right? Like, we're all searching for it. It's a difficult thing being alive in this world, and by and large we have to figure it out for ourselves. Wouldn't it be great to find something? The problem is when they think they've found it, they become dangerous assholes.
Oh my God, Russell Brand.
Oh yeah, very good.
That's their god. He's like the peak of that shit.
Yeah, like the white guy with the longer hair, that type of open, white shirt that isn't quite like a dress shirt because it's a little foreign, but not placeably so.
It's made of hemp.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's always in foreign countries, but never with foreigners.
Ooh, can't speak any other languages.
Precisely. But he'll love telling you about all his cool fill-in-the-blank friends.
What's that one drink that those people always have? They drink it out of this special.
I was going to say kombucha, but you're thinking of yerba mate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Once a cat pulls it and they look at you like this, Kuba, I know you know someone like this. Maybe not. They're not your friend. You just know them. They look at you. They go, "Oh yeah, I stopped drinking coffee years ago." Once I went to Tulum, an elder showed this to me. If you say that, or like right there, I turn right off and I just start asking you a bunch of questions about what you were like before, and then try to figure out how you're different.
Mormon,
now. Right? Like either that, or you're still the same piece of shit, but now you can meditate after you fuck over 15 women and go, well, it's a little different now that I meditated afterwards.
It's there's something too self-indulgent about that kind of wellness culture, so it should be nobody's ultimate source of wisdom.
You know what boofing is, right?
Boofing is it came out with Kavanaugh, but I can't remember.
Drugs up your ass?
Drugs up your ass. Yes. Of course.
Drugs, yes, of course.
Yes.
Boofing booch after tanning.
If a Wookiee does it, it's chew boofing.
Someone says mate is way worse than coffee. I don't know, because once someone brings it out in that weird fucking mug cup
with the ceremonial straw,
and you have, like Kuba was saying, the collarless white shirt that's possibly made of hemp. You're not wearing socks, and the bottoms of your feet are really dirty.
Or you're wearing really fancy sandals, but like ones that are designed to look like you inherited them from Jesus or something.
You people, you can drink Bud Light with your anus, apparently. It's not ceremonial.
Why stop at Bud Light? Why not go full Bud Light?
yeah, Jesus. I don't understand that. Like, there's a lot of things that when people do, I'm just like, Yeah, dude, it's too much, man. It's too much. Like look, I know we all hate Keurigs here, but you went from Keurig to fucking Herba Mate weirdo. Like, just what happened to the pour over? Whatever to the Chemex.
Yeah, you skipped a step there,
Yeah,
asshole.
just the Chemex guy is enough of a douche.
Look at this Homo sapien over here. Thinks he can just skip by the whole Cro-Magnon Homo habilis bullshit. We're gonna take him seriously. Get back to your cave. Get out of here.
It's a South American thing, right? Herba Mate.
Yeah, so it's from Argentina, Uruguay originally.
You said that like you went through a phase.
One of my roommates in college did a semester abroad in Argentina. So I learned all about it. I like the idea of Boba Fett also being a kind of illicit boba narcotic element.
Like boba tea gets some stoned.
Yeah, exactly. If it's boba tea, but it's just been shot through with psychotropics, that's Boba Fett. You want me to fet this boba?
I think you just invented an entire new fucking incel cocktail for the internet.
Yeah, you could even make the little tapioca balls slow release amphetamines or something.
Oh my god!
Just soak them in Ritalin.
There's part of me that wants to pull off that jackass-like joke. like imagine, like Kuba, imagine we're like the super suburb, like Hercules, California, and we just open up our fake boba place. It's like boba and
Boba-fetamine.
Boba-fetamine. Like, what's in here? Like, oh, we make our own boba balls.
It's all artisanal. It's very natural, organic, locally sourced chemicals.
Hell's Angels are pulling up behind us with just fucking bags of amphetamines. That is the ha funny I want for like 45 minutes until the feds come.
Well, that's the thing. To get back to the article, if right now the feds would certainly come for you for pulling that kind of shit. Trump gets elected. You've given him enough of a campaign contribution. When they hit up your illegal vitamin supplement business for causing unlicensed cancer, you possibly, allegedly, hypothetically, might be able to just make a phone call because Trump will give an order to somebody who will give an order to somebody who will carry it out to tell the guy that just knocked in your door to knock it off. What the hell is he doing? That's something that Trump never had before. But what Heritage has given him with Project 2025 is a means to make that happen.
It's kind of scary.
It should be. I mean, our greatest advantage, the big bright spot is that it is too boring and long for Trump to read it. He knows that it's gotten... He knows that people react to it badly, and he hates sharing credit. Remember what happened to Steve Bannon when people were talking about how Steve Bannon has a great plan?
Mm-hmm.
So that might... Right, like Trump's ultimate interest is not in having that kind of power if it's too difficult. He wants the low-hanging fruit. So, yeah, maybe it's too hard. Maybe he doesn't feel like reading. The problem with that is J.D. Vance, he's the type of asshole that does the homework. And he would be building the apparatus not just for Trump's second term, but potentially for one or two Vance terms as well. So he'd be even more incentivized to create an apparatus of people who are ideologically and personally loyal.
His name is Deep State Kuba. Wherever you're watching or listening to the show, there's a link in the article. Trump wants to dismantle the deep state so he can weaponize it. He co-wrote it with friend of show and my neighbor, Ben Burgess. Is there anything else you're working on, Kuba, writing-wise?
No, not right now. Maybe potentially another piece, depending on what Jacobin thinks. But on the 5th, we're on again.
Yeah, we are on again for the 5th. It's going to be a big old TIR party. Everybody's going to be on, and we're going to be joined by Electra. Do you know Electra?
I haven't had the pleasure.
I didn't know if you knew her. I almost said something that sounded really bad. Like Gene knew her. I didn't know if you guys all met in the same place where you met Gene is what I meant.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it though. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Depressing conversation.
Exactly. That patented combination of frivolity and profound existential despair that TIR is known for.
You know, I already wrote all the talking point questions, and I decided I'm just going to ask. I think with everyone there, I'm just going to ask one and then remove myself from the screen and treat it like Hollywood squares.
Circle gets the square.
Circle gets the square. And circle gets the square. That's my dream.
IDF.
By the way, Kuba, that's part of my dream with this new deal is that we can have like one time a month to do an in-studio show, and they'll give us enough of a budget, and we could do it here in Mexico. We could probably get it done and have like some sort of Hollywood Squares type setup, and then we could do that. How fun would that be for a show?
That would be fun.
Oh my god. And then people could call in, and that would be the contestants. That show would take off. That show would be bigger than a chiropractor with a okay body.
Well, especially when you invite her.
Oh, dude. Oh, that would be even better to have like stick normies in there too with us crazy people. Oh my god. Would you guys watch that show? I think people would watch that show.
In fact, make the show. We get somebody from Southern California, just like man on the street type, and they have to pick out the normies from the crazy people.
Crazy LA aspiring people. Oh my god.
And we're incentivized, right? Like every person that he gets wrong gets $100. So like the normie, the chiropractic lady will do her best to learn enough Marxist theory to pass.
Make him have like the Wikipedia version too.
Yeah, exactly. Something means of production.
No. Now make fun of the idiot, fellas.
She's exposed herself. Kill.
That would be like, we would all have fun, and it would actually be a show that would actually probably generate income, and we'd have like real sponsors. Oh.
Presumably not yerba mate after this.
Or we'd be so big where they have to come to us, and we would just shit on them. You can drink this cat piss if you want to, but I don't know what it does for you. Marxist podcasters versus OnlyFans models today on Modern Entertainment.
Round 2 is a pillow fight.
Oh, I see these shows with these piece of shit dudes that bring like the OnlyFans young ladies on there, and they ask them these questions about, who started the Civil War, just goofy shit like that, these women are not prepared to answer, and they just don't know the answer to. And they just start talking to them like they're pieces of shit. I'm like, why would you go on there? And why is this show so fucking popular? We could do a nicer version of that. And still have OnlyFans models.
Yeah, I see your.
It's like a Tubi show.
You did not conceal that particularly well. Yeah, I knew we would get to this point as soon as you brought up the all their shows online. But what might actually be interesting and a bit of a useful public service would be to work with a sympathetic OnlyFans model where she goes out with an awkward dude, and then in a very non-judgmental way, he gets advice during the date from us, and after the date a debriefing about social skills and what's useful to do on a date from the model herself.
Oh yeah, unless she's like, shower first. You must shower.
Well, I think that would be on us to do.
To get the guy showered. Do we have to do it like Silkwood, like with the steel brushes?
Well, that feels like a little excessive. Just some nice advice.
Dude, what if we were the new
Jordan
Peterson in that regard? We were just getting these cats, dirty room cats, and we're like, hey, we'll clean you up and you can go on a date with OnlyFans.
Yeah, but it's tell them up front that it's entirely practice. Don't expect anything to come of it. But you said you wanted to talk to people.
Oh,
let's help you out with that. Actually, it would be, the more I think about it, it would be a variant of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Ooh. That seems fucking
more like show and tell for the incel.
How do we get this greenlit? That's the question.
You're the one who lives close to LA. Obviously it would work. Obviously it's a great idea. Frankly, if any of you beautiful chat people want to run with it, I wouldn't even be upset. You've stayed with us to the end right now, and you haven't been even given a champagne room. But obviously this would work. Obviously this would be a hit.
How do you, dude? I feel
you could get Elon Musk. If somebody can just tell Elon Musk that we need $10 million to do this on X, and I'm calling it X
I would
because
totally
now I want $10 million. But he'd definitely go for it because it would be a massive content driver. Not only that,
we'd have the biggest show. We'd be bigger than the Hawk Tua girl.
Yeah, quite possibly.
She's got the number 3 podcast in the country right now.
Yeah, number 1 is Joe Rogan, and he, masculinity in crisis is kind of his street corner.
We would just do it, and then when you have to go on Joe's show, you talk about, you guys are doing this thing, and we're like, yeah, we are doing this thing, Joe Rogan. We're killing it right now, Joe Rogan. We're crushing it. And these guys,
Elon Musk should actually be our first guest, where we're like, Elon, okay, the shower, good. Maybe don't bring the sword on the date.
He totally would bring a sword on a date. Oh, tell him not to wear the dragon shirt. Don't wear the dragon shirt, brother. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Someone said tons of the reality dating shows. Did you know that the MILF Manor is shot over here? Like in Rosarito.
Until a moment ago, I thought MILF Manor was something they made up during 30 Rock's run.
No.
As a joke within the show.
It's a real fucking show.
Not wonderful.
I don't see neo-Nazis from X faring too well.
Oh my god! And we could use it to launch Bobafetamine.
This is why you have a consultant in your crew. Because it's just idea after idea after money making idea.
Show and tell for the incel, man.
Why is Jason not a guest on MILF Manor? You guys forget I'm fucking old.
Because he's the landlord of MILF Manor.
Basically, I'm like the Mr. Roper of MILF Manor. What's the misunderstanding? I see. Nuri says he sees Elon Musk is more of a nunchuck guy. I feel like the nunchucks next to the ninja star are again some of the most annoying weapons ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nunchuck guys are always hitting themselves.
It's just like, dude, what are you gonna do with that, man? You gonna fucking hit me with a stick on a chain? Don't do that. It's not gonna be what you think it's gonna be after you get done capoeira dancing all over the place. Just fuck down, man. Before I throw a chair at you and then beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. The WWF style, as God intended.
Right? Jason thinks the Sons on MILF Manor are when they shoot, I can tell when they shoot because you see all the trucks, the production trucks are on the main street. It's like it's not walking distance from here, but it's not far from here. It's before downtown, I believe. Well, thank you guys, Kuba. I know it's late where you are, because aren't you an hour ahead?
Sure.
I just made up a time zone.
Imperial Standard Time.
Thank you guys for hanging out with me and Kuba. Keep your eye out for what'd you call it again? Farewell for the incel. What'd you call it?
Farewell for the incel actually might be better. I called it show and tell for the incel.
Show and tell for the incel. I'm all down for that. I'm sure we're going to get some incel hate on this, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. There's a few things I'm like okay with, and I'm really okay with that. So thank you guys. We are out.